Hello, my name is Nathan Metcalf, and my research question was how does the consumption of ultra-processed foods affect our cardiovascular biomarkers? And the class I chose to designate was Introductory Nutrition. I wanted to attack this research question by finding scholarly articles and research heavily based in the discipline of biology. I used search engines such as Google Scholar in the process. Most of you probably know someone who has been diagnosed with a cardiovascular disease or has even died from a major cardiovascular event. I for sure know family members who have experienced a couple of these diseases. This is likely because cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death in the United States and in the world. In 2016, 7.9 million people died worldwide from a cardiovascular disease. So what is an ultra-processed foods? There is some confusion when it comes to what exactly an ultra-processed food is. In essence, a food starts out whole, like a tomato. It can be considered processed when it is broken down into salsa and ingredients such as sodium are added for flavoring. Then the processed version of the food can be even further broken down and even more substances can be added for the food to be considered ultra-processed, such as ketchup. What are cardiovascular biomarkers? Cardiovascular biomarkers are a measurement of certain compounds in the bloodstream. One of the most common cardiovascular biomarkers that are measured at the doctor's office is cholesterol, and some other are listed on the slide. By measuring these biomarkers, a doctor can assess someone's risk for developing a certain cardiovascular disease, and are a great predictor and measurement of health in general. So the first connection we're going to draw is between the consumption of ultra-processed foods and obesity. In a study, participants were randomly selected by their postal codes across the United Kingdom, and they participated in the National Diet and Nutrition Survey. The participants each submitted a 4-day diary and had background information taken. The data from the group of 6,143 individuals spanning the ages of 19 to 96 found that with a 10% increase in consumption of ultra-processed foods, they observed an 18% higher chance of being obese. To further draw another parallel, we will look at obesity and cardiovascular biomarkers. In a study, 27,158 participants, who were all females who lived in the United States, were participants of a women's health study from 1992 to 1995. Researchers measured their cardiovascular biomarkers such as HDLs, LDLs, fibrinogen, cholesterol, creatine, and homocysteine, while also looking at their BMI and physical activity level. The data showed that while BMI and physical activity were independent of each other, having a high BMI put an individual at the greatest risk for cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and all-cause mortality. To start to put the pieces together, a British medical journal study investigated the relationship between the consumption of ultra-processed foods and poor heart health. The study spanned 5 years following 105,159 adults. On average, each adult submitted 5.7 24-hour dietary records. Researchers categorized foods based on NOVA classification to determine the degree of processing. The study concluded that with a 10% increase in intake of processed foods, individuals experience a 12% increase in risk for heart attack, stroke, or other serious cardiovascular events. This is the summation of all the connections in the research that I could make. Right here we can clearly see through the pictures that while there is not a causation, there is a strong correlation between the 3 categories listed below, which is ultra-processed foods, obesity, and unhealthy cardiovascular biomarkers. If I were to look into further research opportunities, I would definitely look into how cardiovascular biomarker health would impact the severity of a COVID-19 infection. I think this would be relatable to anyone because everyone is experiencing this pandemic in some way. My mentor during this project really helped me organize how I went about my research, and it affected how I will conduct my research in the future. The research has also had an influence on my food choices. If I could have done anything differently, I most likely would have looked for more articles discussing a correlation between obesity and cardiovascular biomarkers specifically. Thank you.